This is beyond what we as mere human beings can understand. Oops. Progress on the spiritual life, he'll say, only comes through prayer. Through prayer we succeed in being with God, and anyone who is with God is far from the enemy. Prayer is a support and protection of charity, a break on anger and appeasement and the control of pride. Prayer is the custody of virginity, the protection of fidelity in marriage, the hope of those who are watching. He's also going to be one of the first, yes, he's one of the first to write an attack on slavery. God said, "Let us make man in our own image and likeness." If he is in the likeness of God and rules the whole earth and has been granted authority over everything on earth from God, who is his buyer? Tell me. Who is his seller? To God alone belongs this power, or rather, not even to God himself, for his gracious gifts, Scripture says, are irrevocable. God would not therefore reduce the human race to slavery, since he himself, when we had been enslaved to sin, spontaneously recalled us to freedom. But if God does not enslave what is free, who is he that sets his own power above God's? Slavery, as we well know, is not going to end for a long time. Gregory is among the first to see the contradiction here between the institution of slavery and this faith that we share. And perhaps one final word. Life is in many ways divided up into opposites, since it may be spent as slave or master, in riches or in poverty, in fame or in dishonor, in bodily infirmity or in good health. In all such things there is a division. Therefore the person in need should be made equal to the one who has a larger share, and that which goes short should be filled by what has abundance. This is the law mercy gives us in regard to those in need. For unless mercy softens the soul, we cannot arrive at healing the ills of our neighbor. Mercy then is a voluntary sorrow that joins itself to the sufferings of others, the loving disposition towards those who suffer distress. Again, this constant idea, you can see, one of the constant ideas we've seen running through is the taking care of those who are in need. The fathers are going to hit on this theme again and again and again. Gregory, the theologian, lives from 330 to 390 AD. He's born into an aristocratic family. His mother actually was the one who converted his father to the faith. And much as the brothers we just saw, Gregory as well comes from a family full of saints. After his mother's death, his father enters the priesthood and eventually becomes a bishop of Nazianzus. Both his parents and both of his siblings, as well as himself, are saints. So again, another household, another saintly household. And he follows, as I said, in the West, he's referred to as Gregory of Nazianzus. He will be one of the successors to his father as bishop of the city of Nazianzus. But in the East, we just refer to him as Gregory the Theologian. For those of you who don't know, Gregory is also the patron saint of our eparchial seminary, and so that's where a whole group of us went from the early 1970s into the 2000s. Gregory the Theologian. He's educated in Palestine, Egypt, and Greece. And as I said earlier, it's in Greece where he meets his lifelong friend, St. Basil. He's really a monastic at heart and a deep and profound thinker. He's ordained a priest by his father once his father is a bishop, and he's consecrated bishop by his good friend St. Basil. He turns down, as I said, he's one of the successors to his father in the See of Nazianzus, but he eventually gives up that episcopal see and another one. He just wants to live a quiet life of prayer, and he moves to Constantinople, buys himself a little house, sets up a church, and that's exactly what he does. He is one of the great teachers of the doctrine of the Trinity at the Second Ecumenical Council, and he so impresses the rest of the council fathers that as the council closes, he himself is elected Archbishop of Constantinople. He declines. He spends the remaining years living a quiet life and writing. Many of the things he wrote have actually become lines in the Divine Liturgy. And perhaps a good note, not quite to end with, but nothing seems to me greater than this: to silence one's senses, to emerge from the flesh of the world, to withdraw into oneself, no longer to be concerned with human things other than what is strictly necessary, to converse with oneself and with God, to lead a life that transcends the visible. You get this sense of a monastic at heart here who really would be just as happy spending all day in chapel praying. If you are healthy and rich, alleviate the need of whoever is sick and poor. If you have not fallen, go to the aid of whoever has fallen and lives in suffering. If you are glad, comfort whoever is sad. If you are fortunate, help whoever is smitten with misfortune. Give God proof of your gratitude. Be rich not only in possessions, but also in piety. Not only in gold, but in virtue. Outdo your neighbor's reputation by showing yourself to be kinder than all. Make yourself God for the unfortunate, imitating God's mercy. Not a bad note for us to close on. I had mentioned in the first week, among the many things you can find out there, St. Vladimir Seminary Press puts out a lovely series of little books. It's called the Popular Patristics series, and they'll usually take one or two works by one father and put out a nice little book. So as I mentioned earlier, John Chrysostom on marriage and family life, John Chrysostom on the priesthood, and I can tell you firsthand from reading this, the problems he tells you that the priest is going to face actually happen. He's right on. Even, 1,600 years have gone by and nothing's changed. St. John Chrysostom writing on wealth and poverty. So there are 3 lovely little books by St. John. St. Basil the Great writing on social justice. And the theological poems of St. Gregory the Theologian. Kind of the reflections he writes down, he sits and he prays and he thinks about all these things and he writes poems. And there we are. And again, this does not even scratch the surface of what these men wrote. But these are nice little things. You can easily slip them into a pocket, into a purse, carry them around. Nice things to read during Lent. They're available. There we are. Next week, as I promised Billy, we're going to touch on the desert fathers. It's a little bit of it's going to be just a little bit off of the track we've been on, but it's good for us to hear from the monks too.
They exile someone and not just throw them in jail.
Because somebody can't always take them out of the jail. And that's one of the things they would do. We exile you to the far reaches of the earth. Think of sending someone to Siberia. Not quite the same thing, but close. We're going to send you out there where the life is hard. You can walk around free, but there's nothing there. The weather's bad. The food is lousy. It's a small town rather than the capital city. So there it is. Billy.
This must have been a sea change. Like you mentioned, like these people, the Christians of this era,
Yes.
didn't know the persecution of the. Now, when did this notion of having to burn offerings or give offerings to the emperor, which the Christians wouldn't do?
By this point, that's gone.
But when did that? Is that singularly a Roman aspect of the emperor as God, as a god? Did that go back to the Grecian time?
No. Because remember, the Greeks don't have, the Greeks prefer city-states. By and large, they don't have kings. The Macedonians have kings, the Greeks won't. The Spartans will, but even there, that idea of kingship is very different from what we think of. The idea of emperor as God, the Romans come up with it more or less themselves, but there are other cultures that do this. The Japanese, up until World War II, the Persians, if the Romans were copying any, the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians too. Pharaoh is God. So the Romans, these ideas are out there, and certainly the Romans can be copying these. So